It was okay at first. The voice I started hearing at 10 years old was a friendly voice, and I quite liked it being there. It was kind of like a friend. But then, when I turned about sort of 16, 17, the voice changed.
I was diagnosed quite late. I think I always knew that there was something there, that I wasn't the same as everybody else, but I think I probably got diagnosed around 17 actually, so quite late on, considering that I'd felt quite different through my childhood even.
I thought it was just rational reasons to not want to be alive, because everywhere I looked all I could think about was just how pointless everything that I could be doing was.
One in 10 children aged 5 to 16 suffer from a diagnosable mental health disorder. That's around 3 in every class. Teaching pupils about how to manage and cope with their emotions is something that is not a requirement that schools across the country need to be a part of. But what does that mean for those 3 pupils suffering in silence?
I was 20 when I was diagnosed with schizophrenia. I was diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder, which is a combination of schizophrenia and bipolar. But it was a big shock to me. I didn't know. I knew that I was unwell, but I didn't realise that what I had was schizophrenia. And getting my diagnosis was really scary, to be honest, because I'd only heard bad things about schizophrenia in the news, and I thought that I'd never be able to recover, I wouldn't be able to get on with my life. All my kind of hopes and ambitions just went out the window as soon as I heard the diagnosis, because no one had ever told me a positive story about schizophrenia, about someone that had learnt to live with it. So I basically thought that my life was over when I was given my diagnosis.
At the time when I was younger, I thought I was crazy. I thought I was nothing like anybody else. I was either, at primary school even, I was either really hyperactive and trying to be everybody's friend, or I was sat sort of on the floor in the corner on my own, or hiding in the toilet, or just finding somewhere like a classroom that was empty to just go and sit in on my own because I didn't want to be around people. And sort of as it progressed, I think I noticed that I was a lot more emotional than other people. I did sort of start feeling depressed from a young age, but I think I really noticed it when I was at secondary school. And then as the internet sort of developed and everything, started doing a bit of research on it myself, because I thought, this isn't right, I don't feel depressed all the time like they're telling me the symptoms are. So that's when I looked into it and sort of found out more for myself.
That actual act of killing yourself is so much more difficult than most people think. It's the main thing that you're not meant to do, you know, evolutionary, it's a bad idea to kill yourself. But there were points where I tried before, I tried to step in front of a train, but it's so difficult. You can want to do it as much as you like, but it's, you know, it is incredibly difficult. But it got to one point where I really did want it to end so much that I was going to take active steps to do it. So I looked online to find a painless way to do it, and I decided, you know, maybe this is depression, so I'll check that avenue out first, because this is the way that, if there is a way that I can enjoy the world, you know, why not? So I went for it, and it started to work a little bit. It was difficult for a while, but yeah, it started to work, and that's the process to here now, I guess.
This year, the subject PSHE will be taken off the curriculum for the school year starting in September. Personal, social and health education is a subject that allows young people in school to explore the skills they need to manage their life, including their emotional well-being. Now, alternative methods of delivering these lessons have been created by schools internally.
Now, citizenship is is going to continue to be driven with the new school curriculum, but PSHE I don't think is. So we actually try to build that in because we do see it as quite important. The main vehicles for delivery really are assemblies and citizenship, which is a 1-hour lesson every week, which obviously has to cover the whole scheme of work. But when there are specific weeks, there is 1 week a year where emotional well-being is highlighted. We'll do everything, assemblies and citizenship will all be to do with that. We're also introducing something known as Wellbeing Wednesday, which is form tutor time, whereby children will be given access to clips from things like TrueTube, YouTube, all these things, PowerPoint presentations, whereby it actually stimulates discussion about, like, starting the year, time management, so that if you're using your time properly, you become a little less stressed. Then, however, we might deliver something on how you deal and aware that you are stressed and what to do if you do feel that. So it's a case of raising their awareness as to problems that could develop into larger issues and giving them sort of ideas of how to cope with it and deal with it themselves. And obviously, if they don't know how to deal with it, they could speak to the form tutor, who in actual fact would either help them themselves or pass them on to the pastoral team, which would help improve that access for them.
Choose one of the themes on the board and start planning your essay.
Yeah, I've got one for you.
How many teachers does it take to change a light bulb? No? Alright, how many depressed people does it take to change a light bulb? Doesn't matter, it's always dark, isn't it? When you wake up, you've got a dead arm. Can't control it, can't make it do anything. Imagine that in your whole body, in your mind, your whole life.
A lot of schools use videos like Stand Up Kid in assemblies to highlight the importance of understanding how to treat people with emotional or mental health issues.
Staying awake, coming to class.
However, in Hertfordshire, Monks Walk School decided that more was needed to educate the pupils about their emotions.
We decided 2 years ago now that the subject needed investment, needed reform, and so we took the step of appointing a head of PSCHE, a department to teach it, and we trained 10 staff on the PRP programme. I think that really reflected the importance of emotional education in schools at the moment. It's an area that is changing all the time, there's new things coming in, things that staff are constantly trying to keep abreast of and that young people are bringing to us, and yet the curriculum and the curriculum timing is up to a school to decide. It's not set in stone. When we found out that citizenship is being retained and PSCHE isn't, or the PSHE side of the curriculum isn't, that was a real shock, because in schools at the moment, every school nationally will be seeing an increase in things like homosexual bullying, in things like alcohol use or stress, young people's emotional well-being, and obviously then the prevalence of self-harm in schools. So whilst those things are increasing and the government must be aware of that, and statistics are being taken on that, it's not being protected. There will be statistics released later this year that have already found that the prevalence of self-harm has increased 300% in the last 10 years. And yet, that aspect of the curriculum isn't being protected. So here at Monks Walk, we did decide to invest in it, and we trained staff onto the PRP programme.
I put a phrase into last week's lesson, okay, it's called, "All I want in life is to be normal." Yeah? What does that mean then? What is normal?
Like not being special.
Not being special. The thing that I like about this programme is that it's personal. They can use issues that are related to them. The other thing that I like about it as well is that the students can use their situations in many contexts. So if they're having difficulties with friends, family, school, whatever, they can adapt and use those situations differently. So I think it's a really flexible course that allows students to move forward socially and educationally as well.
So you just blend in?
Right, so just blending into the crowd, okay? I would agree with you. I think normal people just blend into the crowd. They don't stand out, they just go along with the flow. Yeah?
The PRP
Would
programme
anybody
is
else add
really
to that
based in
about
CBT,
being
and the theories
normal?
behind that young people can have the same situation and respond in a totally different way to each other because of their makeup, because of their experience, and because of what they are attributing to that thought. So we look at the programme and we say, well, what is that young person dealing with, and why have they responded in that way? And often, if it's something as simple as, I hate maths, and it's an outburst in maths, it's because they have decided for themselves that they are really bad at maths. And we are trying to prove to them that actually you need evidence to make a judgment like that, and without that evidence you really need to try and challenge those negative thoughts that are getting in the way of your learning. I think the PRP programme is brilliant. It was an excellent training course. It really made us think, and it made us think as teachers about the messages that we send to young people. So if we are saying to a young person, you know, this really wasn't a particularly good test result, then we need to back that up by saying, but you did really well in that piece of classwork, or you did really well in that, or I hear you did brilliantly in a PE lesson last week, or something like that, so that we are giving students an accurate judgment. Because if they're left to their own devices, then the problem is going to escalate, and suddenly it will be, I hate school, I don't want to come in, I'm never going to achieve anything anyway, so I'm not going to try, and soon enough it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Schools can choose pastoral care over teaching time to provide students with the access to counselling. This includes between 60 and 85% of English secondary schools.
I don't think there's enough mental health education in schools. I mean, we have physical education, we have PE, that's compulsory on the curriculum. You know, we're taught to look after our bodies and we do exercise. I think we did about 3 lessons of PE a week at my school, but not once did we have any education on mental health. And your mind is just as important as your body, so it doesn't make sense that there's no education when it comes to your mind. We had lessons in all sorts of things. You know, we had lessons in history, and I sat through countless maths lessons where I never really learned anything, to be honest. And you know, looking back, I just know that having a few lessons on mental health would have maybe made me realise that I was going through mental health problems, made me go and get help. But unfortunately, I was never given that education.
I think it'd make me feel less isolated at the time, because I did feel like I was nothing like anybody else at all. I felt completely crazy. I just thought there was no one else in the whole world that felt like that, and that I was just this weirdo. So as much as I enjoyed school, it was a difficult time because I didn't really know how to control myself. I didn't know how to talk to people, and I don't think I felt like I could approach anyone either, like teachers or anything like that, because I didn't think it was a school issue, whereas I think it should be, looking back, obviously.
In Lincolnshire, the County Council have provided a means of taking the education for emotional well-being out of a classroom and onto the internet.
We're now on a journey, as I mentioned to you, the Healthy Schools area do emotional wellbeing, but we also have a counselling service that the Lincolnshire Co-op provide for GPs or parents to access if their children feel that they need someone to talk to. And we've also got this new online system called Kooth, which I would suggest you have a look at, and that's been really well used by teenagers. We know that the 13 to 17-year-old age group have using that ever such a lot. I think we had over 2,700 people using it this last year. So that service, people, as we know, young people like doing things online and they get a counselling service that way as well. So we know that's very successful, and we're wanting to do more and more of that.
more than half of all adults with mental health problems were diagnosed in childhood, but less than half were treated appropriately at that time.
I still do believe that I was being rational and it was correct, but you know, that was guided by kind of frustration before, and I feel that now that was a manifestation of that depression, and I couldn't have known any other way about it because I'd never experienced any other way of life because I'd always had that in the background. So it was just a case that I couldn't recognise it because I'd just stayed inside it for so long.
We have to constantly remind ourselves how very often just getting into school is a real big deal for some children, and then they've got to go through, you know, every hour a bell goes, you've been expected to do this, that and the other, and yet it's actually taking them everything to get themselves in because of what horror is going on in their life and the baggage that they carry with them every day, sort of thing.